Let's begin with a memory. The memory of a spectacular, careless party, a night of dazzling light, forbidden champagne, and endless melancholic music. This is the sound of the Jazz Age, and this is the world of The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. This novel is not merely a tragedy of unrequited love. It is the definitive, glittering elegy for the American dream, a dream that, in the roaring 20s, became corrupted by greed, illusion, and profound, unforgivable carelessness. Our guide into this intoxicating, doomed world is Nick Carraway, a young man from the Midwest who comes to Long Island, New York. He is our witness, the reserved moral observer who finds himself living next door to the most dazzling and enigmatic millionaire of the era, Jay Gatsby. Gatsby throws colossal, blindingly luxurious parties every weekend, yet he hosts these hundreds of strangers for one solitary, singular reason: to win back Daisy Buchanan, the beautiful, wealthy cousin of Nick, who lives across the bay. We will systematically dissect the three key illusions that destroy Jay Gatsby. The illusion of wealth. Gatsby believed money could purchase class, history, and, most importantly, love. The illusion of time. Gatsby was convinced he could simply erase 5 years of history and repeat the past exactly as it was. The illusion of Daisy. Gatsby fell in love not with the real woman, but with an idealized, unbreakable symbol of his dream. Prepare to journey into the heart of the 1920s, where fortunes were built overnight and moral values dissolved in cocktails. We will witness how one man's beautiful, impossible hope collided with the crushing, cynical reality of American wealth. Our story of a green light, a yellow car, and an unshakable dream begins now. West Egg, East Egg, and the Valley of Ashes. Our narrative begins with the arrival of Nick Carraway in the summer of 1922. Nick, a young man who has come east to learn the bond business, rents a small, unpretentious house in West Egg, Long Island. This location is crucial. West Egg is the home of the nouveau riche, the people with new money who earned their fortunes overnight, often through questionable means, and who try desperately to mimic the manners of the elite. Across the water, in the traditional aristocratic East Egg, lives Nick's cousin, Daisy Buchanan, and her immensely wealthy, physically imposing, and aggressively powerful husband, Tom Buchanan. Tom and Daisy represent old money, wealth inherited over generations, which instills in them an ingrained sense of entitlement, arrogance, and moral impunity. The entire geography, West Egg, aspiration versus East Egg, entrenched privilege, is a perfect metaphor for the class divide in America. Our first encounters with Tom and Daisy reveal the deep cracks beneath the glittering surface of the elite. Tom is a vicious, cheating bully, a man consumed by outdated racist ideologies who hides his brutal nature beneath a veneer of athletic confidence. Daisy is beautiful, captivating, and possesses a voice that sounds like money, a captivating, seductive promise of all things luxurious and safe. Yet Daisy is deeply unhappy, fully aware of Tom's infidelity, but paralyzed by the comfort and security of her wealth. As Nick observes this couple, he is also introduced to the symbolic, grotesque wasteland that lies between the city and the suburbs, the Valley of Ashes. This desolate stretch of land, covered in the literal detritus of industrial waste, represents the moral and social destruction left behind by the unchecked consumption of the wealthy. The poor, who labor anonymously to fuel the rich man's world, live here. Overlooking the Valley of Ashes is the gigantic, fading billboard advertising an ophthalmologist, the eyes of Dr. T.J. Eckelberg. These colossal, disembodied eyes are one of the novel's most powerful symbols. A non-judgmental, silent gaze that observes the moral squalor and waste of American society. It is in this Valley of Ashes that Tom takes Nick to meet his mistress, Myrtle Wilson, the wife of the hapless garage owner, George Wilson. This introduction to the sordid, violent world of Tom's adultery immediately shatters Nick's polite Midwestern moral code, setting the stage for the true protagonist's arrival. The mystery of Gatsby, the parties, and the dream. Nick's house in West Egg is dwarfed by the massive, ostentatious mansion next door, the property of the enigmatic Jay Gatsby. Almost every weekend, Gatsby hosts extravagant, chaotic, and completely over-the-top parties. Hundreds of guests, famous, rich, superficial, pour in using his pool, dancing to his orchestra, and drinking his boundless illegal alcohol. Crucially, Gatsby himself remains a mystery to his own guests. No one knows who he is or where his vast, new money comes from. The parties are fueled by a torrent of wild, often contradictory rumors. He is a German spy. He killed a man. He is a relative of Kaiser Wilhelm. Gatsby remains a figure of profound isolation, often standing alone on the edge of his property, watching the chaotic spectacle he created. Nick finally meets Gatsby, a handsome, reserved young man with a formal, almost unnatural politeness and an incredibly unsettling way of speaking, often using the phrase "old sport." Gatsby's entire persona is revealed to be a meticulously constructed facade. The mystery of Gatsby's purpose is soon shattered by Nick's confidant, the professional golfer Jordan Baker. She reveals the simple, heartbreaking truth. Gatsby's entire life, his mansion, his wealth, his relentless parties, are all a desperate 5-year-long scheme to attract the attention of one woman, Daisy Buchanan, who lives just across the bay in East Egg. Gatsby bought the house specifically because from his lawn, he can see the faint, beckoning green light at the end of Daisy's dock. This green light is the novel's central symbol. It is not just a light, it is the literal physical embodiment of Gatsby's dream, the future he strives to reach, the past he is determined to recapture, and the promise of the American dream itself, shimmering just out of reach. His fortune, built on illegal ties to the notorious gambler Meyer Wolfsheim, the man who fixed the 1919 World Series, is nothing more than a highly elaborate bait to lure his lost love back into his life. Nick is now fully aware that the luxury surrounding Gatsby is merely the fragile shell of an impossible, all-consuming hope. The reunion, recreating the past. The true heart of the novel begins when Nick agrees to arrange the pivotal reunion between Gatsby and Daisy after 5 long years. The scene of their first meeting is handled with exquisite, awkward tension. Gatsby is so nervous that he is almost physically ill, proving that behind the magnificent facade lies a deeply vulnerable, hopelessly romantic young man named James Gatz. As the tension breaks and they slowly reconnect, Gatsby's emotional dam bursts. He takes Nick and Daisy on a tour of his mansion, showing off his material wealth, his massive library, his clothes, and his magnificent, almost comical collection of imported shirts. When Daisy sees the sheer abundance of his wealth, she cries, proclaiming, "They're such beautiful shirts." Her tears are not just for the fabric, they are for the lost 5 years, the life of security, luxury, and devotion she could have had with this man had she only waited. This reunion solidifies Gatsby's single, fatal flaw, his obsessive belief in the possibility of repeating the past. He tells Nick, with terrifying conviction, that he wants Daisy to tell Tom that she never loved him, effectively erasing the entire 5 years of her marriage and their child's life. Gatsby does not seek a future with Daisy. He seeks to resurrect a specific, perfect moment in time that exists only in his memory. The narrative flashes back to reveal the true origin story of Jay Gatsby, James Gatz. He was a poor farm boy who met Daisy Fay in Louisville during the war. He fell desperately in love with her wealth, her beauty, and the promise of a life that only old money could buy. He disguised his poverty with a borrowed uniform and allowed Daisy to believe he was rich. When he left for the war, Daisy, unable to wait for a man with no money, married the established, powerful Tom Buchanan. Gatsby's entire subsequent life, his name change, his illicit fortune, his relentless self-improvement, was a dedicated attempt to become the man worthy of her social status. Gatsby's dream has now achieved its material realization. The parties cease as he no longer needs to cast a wide net. He believes he has finally closed the distance to the green light. But Nick, the cautious observer, senses the profound, irreversible tragedy. Gatsby has elevated Daisy to an ideal that no real woman can possibly live up to. He is worshiping a fantasy. The confrontation and the accident. The dramatic tension, building through the summer, finally explodes on a stiflingly hot afternoon. The group, Nick, Gatsby, Daisy, Tom, and Jordan, gathers at the Plaza Hotel in New York City. The atmosphere is charged and suffocating, mirroring the pressure cooker of their moral situation. Tom, who has long been suspicious of Gatsby's new money and his relationship with Daisy, decides to launch his final brutal attack. He publicly exposes Gatsby, revealing the truth about his fortune. Gatsby is a criminal, his wealth built on bootlegging, stolen bonds, and other illicit enterprises. This confrontation is the central collision between the two types of American wealth, old money versus new money. Tom despises Gatsby not for being a criminal, but for daring to encroach upon the sacred, protected space of their established wealth. Tom's inherited entitlement gives him the confidence to expose the criminal, knowing that his own family history, built on the backs of others, is conveniently forgotten. Gatsby's entire facade shatters. He desperately begs Daisy to confirm his dream, demanding that she tell Tom, "I never loved you." But Daisy cannot do it. She is unable to sacrifice the comfort, safety, and history of her marriage for Gatsby's unstable criminal fantasy. In a moment of tragic clarity, Daisy admits, "You want too much. I loved him once, but I loved you too." This honest, chaotic admission destroys Gatsby. He cannot comprehend love that exists outside his rigid vision of the past. Daisy, revealed to be deeply human and morally weak, is utterly incapable of matching the purity of his relentless dream. The confrontation ends with Tom smugly ordering Gatsby and Daisy to drive back together in Gatsby's opulent yellow car, secure in the knowledge that he has broken Gatsby's spirit. The tragedy reaches its climax on the road back through the Valley of Ashes. Myrtle Wilson, Tom's mistress, having escaped her husband and mistaking Gatsby's yellow car for Tom's, Tom had driven it earlier, rushes out into the street. Daisy, who is driving, strikes and instantly kills Myrtle. In a final act of carelessness, Daisy speeds away, and Gatsby, in a gesture of profound self-sacrificing devotion, immediately pledges to take the blame for the accident to protect her. The beautiful criminal car, the ultimate symbol of Gatsby's flawed dream, has caused a fatal and irreversible catastrophe. The aftermath, the death of the dream. The aftermath of the accident is a swift, brutal descent into tragedy and moral isolation. George Wilson, Myrtle's heartbroken and deranged husband, is consumed by grief and rage. Tom, with casual cruelty, subtly feeds Wilson the lie that Gatsby was the driver, and worse, that Gatsby was Myrtle's lover. Tom successfully shifts the blame and responsibility onto the man he despises, effectively erasing his own guilt. The following day, Wilson tracks Gatsby down at his mansion. Gatsby is waiting by the phone, still hoping for Daisy's call, still clinging to the belief that she needs his protection. Wilson finds Gatsby floating on an air mattress in his pool and shoots him dead before killing himself. The death of Jay Gatsby is profoundly ironic. He dies alone, not in a glamorous fight, but in his own forgotten pool, shot by the one man who had been genuinely manipulated by Tom. The ultimate tragedy is revealed in the funeral. Nick, determined to honor the one truly romantic and decent person he met, attempts to organize a proper burial. The crushing reality of the superficiality of the jazz age hits him with full force. No one comes to the funeral. None of the hundreds of party guests, none of the people who drank his liquor or danced to his music, care enough to attend. Daisy, who is miles away, never calls, never sends flowers, and never shows any remorse, retreating into the protected shell of her old money comfort with Tom. Nick finally realizes the profound, unforgivable carelessness of the rich. They make colossal messes and simply retreat behind their money, leaving others to clean up the physical and moral wreckage. The novel concludes with Nick's famous melancholic reflections. He decides to return to the moral solidity of the Midwest, forever disillusioned by the corrupt East. His final contemplation is centered on the meaning of the green light. He realizes that Gatsby failed because he mistook the symbol for the reality. He believed the future could be a perfect mirror of the past. Gatsby's dream, Nick concludes, was beautiful in its purity, but it was doomed from the start. The green light, originally representing the promise of a future America, has been forever stained by the betrayal and moral emptiness of the Buchanan generation. Nick leaves us with the ultimate unforgettable meditation. The relentless human tendency to beat on boats against the current, borne back ceaselessly into the past.